In today's video, we're going to be ranking all of the heat presses and so that you know which one you want to purchase. So you've been watching my channel. We're going to be going from the 12x10 craft heat press all the way up to the 44x64 heat press. So you're talking about a tiny heat press that's $100 all the way up to heat presses that's worth over $16,000. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you've seen my journey going from heat presses to print on demand to going to a hybrid model. Currently, for the most part, we use mostly print on demand, and I have a local fulfillment partner, so I don't do much pressing anymore. However, a lot of you guys are getting into the game and you guys are very anti print on demand or anti using a printer, and you have your heart set on purchasing a heat press. Someone needs to tell you the right one to purchase if this is what you want to do. Anyway, so why not make this video? So I did clickbait you a little bit. I'm probably going to go over roughly like 20 heat presses or so. It's kind of hard to go through every single heat presses. Some people have like a base model, a pro model, a plus model. It's just kind of hard to get through a lot of it, but I'll go over most of it as I can. And I've touched, owned, purchased most of these heat presses myself, and me and my team have pressed hundreds of thousands of t-shirts. Yes, hundreds of thousands of t-shirts. So some of these heat presses we purchased for like $1,000 and it's lasted us for 40,000 heat presses plus. So let's go ahead and just start. Alright, some of these heat presses I've never owned, but it's only fair for me to give my thoughts and opinions about. But I have owned most of them, but on the craft side and under $200 side, I've only owned some of the cheap heat presses. Nothing like this, but I'm still gonna give you my thoughts and opinions on it. Honestly, for something like this is something that's really small, and I'm also gonna rank these heat presses 1 out of 10. This right here is super small, and to me, honestly, this is one of the best small heat presses that you could purchase for what it's made for, right? I see lots of people use this for a neck tag, which is pretty cool. Eventually, over time, if you want to do heat pressing for neck tags, I recommend getting a hat heat press. It's really simple and easy to be able to use a hat heat press to do the tags. It's really quick. But I see lots of people use this for the hat heat press. This is really awesome for like shoes, whatever it may be that's really small. Honestly, to me, it's super cool to see something that's like an iron and probably has a little bit more heat than an actual iron, and it's designed to use on small items. Obviously, this isn't a t-shirt size heat press, but I just wanted to throw this in there because honestly, to me, this is one of the coolest small little gadgets that's not an iron as a heat press that you can use for simple small things. And for the most part, everything from here on out, it's not gonna be mug presses or hat presses. It's just gonna be straight up like t-shirt heat presses. But for something like this, honestly, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 because for what it's made for, the price it is, it's awesome. But that's the best it's gonna get when it comes to ranking on the craft side. So now we have this Cricut Easy Press 2 heat press machine. I've never touched it, I've seen it, but I just don't see how you could get precise pressure on this thing, right? You push down on it for your actual pressure, there's no way it's consistent at all. You know, you place the t-shirt on the mat, then you place this on top of it and you press down on it. It has like some pressure settings on it as well, but without that accurate pressure reading, honestly, to me, this is not worth it. I don't even see how it has this many 5-star reviews. Maybe this is just made for people who are straight up creating a craft, you know, like just some t-shirt projects at home. Maybe you're selling a few here and there, but I just don't see how this could be a reliable source when it comes to heat press, especially for the money. It says well worth the money, but for $100, I would honestly spend the extra $100 on, you know, maybe like one of the cheaper heat presses that we'll get into. For something like this, just that pressure reading itself is not something that's going to work out for you. And honestly, the size of it is small. Everything on the craft side is probably going to be like 12x10 to 15x15. If you're for certain you want to get into the t-shirt space, definitely recommend a 16x20 at the very least. It's just going to give you enough spacing to do what you gotta do. Although most t-shirt designs are probably 12x14 or 12x15, and the patterns may be 15x15, you don't want to push the limits when it comes to it. You still want some of that margin on the platen just because the heat is not going to reach the very end of that heat plate. So something like this, honestly, to me, I don't see how this is a 4.8 even for the price. Maybe for what it's made for, like I said in the past, I would give it a little bit higher, but I know there's alternatives that you can get into for roughly the same price. And to me, I would give this like a 5 out of 10. I know it's kind of crazy. How did I give something, both Cricut products, a wild rating? Because I loved one of them and I didn't like the other one. It's just because the fact that it's going to be for t-shirts, larger application, you need that heat, you need that accurate pressure to at least make sure it's on there. Even if it's not entirely accurate, you just want to make sure it's secure and it locks instead of you kind of pushing down on it, you know? So this is one of those budget-friendly Amazon heat presses. This is made by Fancier Studio. As you can see, for an extra $69, you can get something that actually clamps down so that, you know, it's actually locked into the actual t-shirt, like it's grabbing onto the actual fabric, the garment, the substrate itself. So I would honestly save the extra $60-$70 and spend it on something like this. Also, if you're just kind of getting started, Facebook Marketplace has awesome heat presses for great prices, because people start businesses, they can't hold on to it and they give up really quickly. The biggest thing I can say is get you one of those heat guns and have the person turn it on and measure out each and every single part of the heat plate, just to make sure that heat temperature is accurate across that whole entire heat plate itself. And I'll get more into that towards the end. So for something like this, when it comes in, some of these buttons may be loose, some of the things might be falling off. It is a budget heat press. It's gonna get you started though. It'll probably help you make your return on investment, at least like a few $100. I've had stories of people saying it's lasts for a long time. The only thing with these heat plates, you can't really see the inside of it, but I know for a fact, like on these cheaper ones, they use different heat plates. And if you open it up, it looks like, you know, like an iron, like it's just like kind of like a wiggle line of like actual heat, and it's not even throughout the whole entire plate itself, but it will work. It will get the job done. T-shirt will probably last like 20 plus washes or so if you like really pressure it on there. Probably even more than that, I'm not sure. But to be honest, if this is what you got, you want to flip your money and then take the money and invest in something else, it is doable. But there is that quote, you buy cheap, you buy twice. I bought my first heat press on Craigslist for $500. My first year in the t-shirt business made roughly $200,000, and then I went out and bought a Geo Knight heat press, which I'll show later on, and that heat press done over 30,000 heat presses. So for something like this, I would say 7 out of 10. I feel like that's kind of high though. I feel like we need to go back and kind of lower everything. I think this, I don't know what I said last, 6 out of 10, maybe 5 out of 10. This right here is probably gonna need to be like a 5.5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, because the one towards the end, I'm gonna start giving like 8, 9, 10 out of 10s, right? So anyways, there you have that heat press right there. Now here you have another Cricut heat press product, $300, which honestly to me is kind of crazy for a 15 by 12. It looks like a waffle maker or something. It has that craft aesthetics to it. I will honestly go cheaper and buy this heat press before I would buy this one though. And what's up with the knob not being on the actual table itself? Not a fan of that. Looks cool, but man, you know, if you are crafting and you're new to this, you have very limited table space. That right there is like where your tweezers could be, whatever it may be. That's gonna be in the way. I'm not gonna lie to you. You could push it up a little bit, but to me, for somebody like me, if I'm just starting off, I know I have limited table space, and table space is very important when it comes to creating products, creating t-shirts, whatever product you are creating. I want every bit of table space I could possibly have. So, you know, to me, that's kind of irritating. That's not attached to the actual machine itself, but you know, it looks like it clamps on. It doesn't have any pressure adjustments. It does not look like. Let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, it does have some type of pressure adjustment right here. It says perfect pressure every time. Automatically adjust. I'm not sure if I love the automatic adjust. This one right here has the actual knob, so you can make it tighter or more loose. I'm not a fan of automatic adjust. I don't think automatic adjustment on pressure is a good thing. So for something like this one, for the price, $300, and I'm looking at their previous Cricut product, this easy press, and I gave this like a 5 out of 10. For the price of this one, I would almost give this a lower, it sounds weird, but I would give this a lower rating than this one because of just the way it's set up. I would say a 4 out of 10, and it's 15 by 12. This is 12 by 10. Man, we need to lower the rating on this again. This is probably like a 4 out of 10. This is like a 5 out of 10. Cricut probably doesn't like me at all. I mean, for the craft side, that's cool. I see the market that they're going for, but there's other options. Okay, so this one right here, I've seen this one multiple times. Look, we'll check this one out though. All right, so we're going to compare this one compared to that Cricut one. I've seen many YouTube reviews on this one right here. I've not personally used it, but man, this is pretty crazy how this one actually works. And this one right here, $236, is larger than the other one. I believe you can actually control the pressure settings and check it out. It actually has auto release. To me, honestly, for that price, for something to have that kind of pressure on its own and that works mechanically on its own for that price was not around when I first got started 10 years ago. To me, that's pretty crazy. Like what that is for that price. To me, this is pretty solid for the price. Now, when I do these rankings, once again, I'm also taking in consideration the price of it as itself. We're looking at $236. And now since I just saw this one for $300, now I'm coming and see this one, which is larger and it has the auto release on it, and you can't control the pressure actually. So it is automatic like the other one, but to me it's pretty cool how it just like locks in on its actual own. But it looks like it does have the slide out. Yeah, it does have a slide out. Slide outs are awesome because it gives you a lot of space for you to be able to work on your actual substrate without having to touch the heat plate on accident and burning yourself. It's pretty rare that you burn yourself. I'm sure you might have touched the stove on accident before. Same feeling, but it's it's a whole lot easier to be able to see the actual substrate without like having to get under the actual heat presses. So to me, this right here is pretty solid compared to this one right here. I'm gonna give this one 6 out of 10 as well. Actually, this one is my most preferred one when it comes to this price range. What did I give this? I have no idea. I'm confused now. But this needs to be a lower rating than this one right here. This is probably 5.5 or something. Now I'm sure you've seen this one before. We've had one of these sitting around our warehouses before. I don't know, it's just kind of to have around just because, like, you know, you can gift it to someone. I don't know why we had it, but it's interesting because you can actually change attachments if you want to make mugs and whatnot. For us though, we're not a huge like 5-in-1, 8-in-1 heat presses. I prefer you get a standalone mug heat press, a standalone hat heat press, a standalone t-shirt heat press. It just all works better when it's built exactly what it's supposed to be built for. For something like this though, 260, 15 by 15, if you really want to just get into everything and you don't have the budget for it, then maybe get into something like this. I don't know. This is probably going to be like the same rating as whatever I gave this one. I don't remember what the rating was. So that's what I would say. And then see, as you can see, the heat plate itself, this is what I was talking about. It's kind of like the tube heating. And then the more expensive ones, I don't think they use tube heating. Someone else gonna have to comment down below what they use, but I've seen the inside of them and it's nothing like that. It's something different where, you know, the heat is more evenly distributed throughout the actual heat plate itself. As you can see with something like this, yeah, the metal can get hot from the outside, but ideally, like within those little cracks and crevices, you know, it's gonna be lower. Even though this is probably gonna be set to like 300, right? Inside is probably gonna be like 290, 291, 293, you know, 294. Right here is probably gonna be like 291 or something. So just to give you an idea of what I was talking about when it came to the actual heat on these cheaper heat presses. All right, so enough of those heat presses. I know that was a lot, but I know you guys have questions and, you know, appreciate you for your patience. I'm trying to work through this as much as I can. I have a video on this heat press. This is a pretty solid heat press, 16 by 20. The biggest differences when it comes to something that's less budget friendly and to something that you probably only have to buy once instead of buying twice, the gauge of the metal is entirely different. Some of them are made out of aluminum, some of them are made out of steel. You know, the quality of how the heat presses are made becomes entirely different. So this one's pretty cool. It has a slide out, it has the magnetized locking system. So whenever you lock it down, you can really feel like it's locked in comparison to the cheaper ones where it just kind of feels like a mechanical snap. This one right here is a 16 by 20. One thing you want to look at too, like as you can see, this has a really nice large gap right here, meaning even whenever this is tucked in, you can push the actual t-shirt onto the platen itself and still have space between the actual platen and the heat plate itself. So, you know, that space is actually fairly nice to have. So once again, this is a 16 by 20 and it looks like it's $200 off right now. So that's a pretty good deal. It looks like that's a pretty good deal for, but around that price, 16 by 20, I think there may be some better options, but as a heat press right here, we've had it, we can use it multiple times. To the price though that we're looking at, quality is great, but based on the competitors of other heat presses that you could probably get for maybe cheaper or around the same price, I will probably give this a 7.5. Sounds crazy. I feel like I should rank it higher, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. Once again, my rankings are my rankings. You guys can rank it whatever you guys want, and you know, maybe I could change my ranking in the future. It's just kind of how I feel today. But all right, so this is another one. Like I was saying, it's kind of hard to go over every heat press because now they have one that's called a select. This is semi-auto, 16 by 20 is even cheaper, $829. I can already tell by looking at it, this looks like plastic right here. And then I don't like it when the sliding mechanism is out like that, and that type of metal, like it's almost like the same metal that you use in a cabinet or drawer. It just looks like it can get caught up with a t-shirt with it being exposed like that. It looks like it needs like frequent lubrication. I'm not honestly sure. I can't judge, but I can also tell by like this type of platen, like it's that cheaper metal. And I don't even know how I can explain this through pictures of how I know like what the metal or aluminum, I don't know what it's made out of, but I can just tell like it's not the best quality in comparison to something like this where it's entirely different. And I wish I had better vocabulary for you guys. Unfortunately, I don't. I'm not the smartest person in the world, so bear with me. But anyways, this is $829 plus $200 off. That's pretty decent. And then they also have a 16 by 20 swinger. The swing away, it swings away. So this one's gonna be roughly $600. This one's also roughly $600. This one swings away. I will honestly go with the swing away one. This one looks a little bit of a nicer build compared to this one, but I can tell this right here is probably like a plastic cover and whatnot. This gauge or metal, steel, whatever, aluminum, I don't know. Looks better than this one right here. I feel like this locking mechanism is better than this one right here though. I've never touched either of these two. I haven't used this one multiple times over. Both of these I would get a 7 out of 10. I feel like I also gave this a 7 out of 10, but that's pretty good price for something that you know it's gonna last you. Something like these are probably gonna last you a whole lot longer, way longer than those Amazon ones. If you're looking to purchase your first heat press and you're like on the cusp of like, I could save $400, spend the extra $400, spend in that $500-600 range with a more well-known company like Pro World's gonna be a lot more well-known. I'll go over some of the other ones in a second, but definitely spend in that $500-600 range. So it doesn't look like they make this one anymore, but this is the first heat press that I've ever had, which was a US cutter heat press, and I got this, was at Craigslist. It was like a few $100. So this one lasted me for a long time. Well over $200,000 worth of t-shirts my first year with it. Whatever that is, divided by 20, about 1,000 presses, and it still lasted beyond that as well. Yeah, I could have easily done that math. I told you I'm not the smartest person in the world, but over 1,000 heat presses. 2020, whatever. Anyway, 16 by 20. I just figured I'd mention this one. See, I'm biased because like I love this heat press because now I have memories with this heat press, right? I want to give it a higher than a 7 out of 10, but it had a really nice build quality to it as well. See, but this is like kind of that same platen as how this one is built. And it's not the best kind of feeling metal. It feels really rough and not like a complete finish to it. And it's kind of hard to explain, but I would put this in about the same ballpark as this. 7 out of 7. I mean, 7 out of 7. 7 out of 10. It is cheaper here because I guess since this is refurbished, I don't know if they make them anymore. I guess here it is right here, $389. I don't know what's up with this company though. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know if they're still super solid. Like when I first found out about them 10 years ago, you know, I've seen them a lot, but as of recently, this isn't like a website that I've seen a lot. So I don't know what their status is when it comes to like customer support and all those things. So just giving you a heads up. Also, I'll post all the links to all of these heat presses down below in the comment section, as well as their description as well. But to me, this one right here is an awesome build from Heat Transfer Warehouse. They built their own line of heat presses called the Waller Press, and they've gone through multiple versions. This looks like it's the 3rd version. I've touched the V1, V2. This is the V3. They have a really nice build to it. It is fairly solid. I would say, once again, you see how you have like this exposed drawer slide out mechanism? Like your t-shirts get hooked on there occasionally, especially like when you start moving a little bit, you know. So I'm not a huge fan of the exposed drawer looking thing, and to me, like just the way it looks, it just brings down the whole entire value of the whole entire thing. Like, you know, everything looks nice on it, and then this to me, it just looks kind of cheaper, and it brings down the value like slightly. You know, that's just my remarks on it. I don't know how everyone else feels on it. I don't know why this one looks entirely different than this one. Okay, this one's just all silver. The all silver one makes it look like it's super industrial. This one kind of makes it look a little too crafty, but this one feels like it looks a little more expensive. But for the price though, $623 in comparison to the other ones that's also in the same ballpark, this is pretty much same ballpark, same heat press style, 16 by 20. I'm gonna give this a little bit higher than a 7 out of 10. I think I'm gonna go about 7.4 out of 10. I've touched all of them, and I feel like this one just has the nicer build quality overall, except for this little slider thing. It just throws me off, but it has a nice grip handle. But once again, really you're just kind of comparing at this price range to the kind of the craftier ones, and why you should save up to the $500-600 range and get one of these. And to be honest, it's more than just the build quality of it, it's also the customer support that you get with it. Obviously you're probably seeing some like Chinese built ones, some that you could buy straight from AliExpress, straight from Alibaba, that looks like it has high build quality, which may be the case, but you may get it, the internals is probably all off, and you won't get any type of customer support whatsoever. So I know you may have come across some of those heat presses, but you know, for the price, this is where you're going to be at. Maybe if you're somewhere kind of in the middle, you're probably going to want to go on Craigslist or, you know, Facebook Marketplace or something like that. I don't even know if Craigslist is still a thing like that, but Facebook Marketplace, you can always find lots of them on there. You just don't know if it's broken or not, and then you're not going to get that same customer support from, you know, a well-known website as well. But also for almost in the same ballpark range, I know Heat Press Nation, they have their own line of heat presses as well. Something like this one is going to be fairly close. I would probably give it the same rating just because it has like slightly nice features. We've actually had one too, I believe. This one has like nice features. It has the drawer slide out, but it has this extra little handle so you can press down on it a little more with 2 hands instead of 1. It gets a little tiring if you're just starting off with like that manual heat press. I'll probably give it the same rating. Actually, I don't know. What did I rank this? Man, I don't know. Just put the ranking, whatever I said for this one, same ranking for this one, but for the price for this one is a little bit better. Actually, put this down by 0.2. I hope my editor is not going to kill me. Thank you, Lex, for keeping up with it for me. But yeah, this one right here, 0.2 lower than this one right here, only because, and y'all are gonna hate me for this, because I hate the build of this thing right here. I hate the way that looks, just like how this one right here looks. It's not aesthetically pleasing, but this one right here, it just reminds me too much of the cheap Amazon heat presses, the cheap Chinese heat presses. That to me is just, it's something so small that I should not be judging, but I will. This, I just hate the way that kind of looks. Like I said, like, although this drawer thing it looks like it's kind of built out of the same thing, you know, it's not exposed and kind of in the way. And I know that's kind of difficult to explain, because like for you it might look the same, but whenever you're actually using it, you will notice a difference. So, you know, you got to put that 0.2 back up there on the point system for this one out of 10, whatever that may be. And you might even have to give it another 0.1 as well, because like no one is breaking down heat presses like this the same way they do with their videos. Their videos are high quality, really answering your questions within the actual video. You got to give it another like 0.1, raise it up one more time, 0.1 for this, because like, man, it's almost like getting customer support hands-on. It's crazy seeing a heat press being broken down like this for an actual video and just showcasing what you're gonna get. I mean, you're gonna make this type of investment, you need to know the quality build of the thing. This is awesome to me. That's great. So while we're here, we're gonna go a little bit higher in the pricing. Now we're gonna reach the $1,000 to $2,000 territory. And you know, that was my first jump. I jumped from a US cutter, and when I had the money, I jumped into a Geo Knight heat press, and I'm about to show you the exact one that I got into, which is this one right here. I feel like it was like $1,600 when I first got mine. So obviously price of things go up. And if you don't know what liftgate service is, just to explain to you, most time these are shipped on pallets, and it's going to be shipped on a semi truck, you know, that's going to be raised higher, that's made for a warehouse with a dock so they can back into it and you can just pull it right off. But if you don't have that in your home, you're going to need the liftgate service, because what's going to happen is they're going to pull it to the back of the semi truck and it needs to be lowered down, and then they need to roll it inside of your house or your office that does not have a dock or whatever. So, you know, some people may have that question, some people don't. When I first started, you know, I kind of had an idea, but I wasn't for certain. So this is the first heat press that I purchased when I had some money. I got into Geo Knight, and you know, Geo Knight has awesome customer support as well. I've reached out to Geo Knight multiple times for some small questions. They're able to answer it quickly. And the person in charge, I don't know if they're related to the Knight family. I believe his name was like Aaron Knight or something as well. But this right here, like, incredible quality of the actual material, the heat press. This thing's gonna last you. I would say the screw has broken off multiple times though, but regardless of that, to me this is still like a high 8 heat press, like 8.5, probably even 9 to me. But once again, I'm kind of biased. I've also had the sliding plate with it as well, but I had it whenever these things first came out, so it was a little wobbly, but it was still awesome, because like you can throw a t-shirt on there while one side's getting heat pressed and then so forth, right? So to me this was awesome, and I am kind of biased because I have a lot of emotional attachment to this actual heat press as well. We've heat pressed probably more than 30,000-40,000 t-shirts with this thing, but the dang handle has broken many times, but the heat plate itself has never failed us. Very well, solid pressure and everything. But then I got into the other Geo Knight after this one, got into the auto open 16x20. For some reason though, this one right here just feels way more expensive than this one right here. I don't know what it is. This one is just like, I think because this metal, or you know, steel, whatever it is, maybe I need to start looking things up. Okay, steel framework. All right, so this steel, although it, like in person it feels like it just feels kind of thin, but it's very solid. Like it feels incredibly strong. So this steel is what really makes the huge difference between heat press like this compared to all those lower end heat presses. It's just the quality build of this thing is awesome. One thing about this one as well, I've had one of these screws come off on it, so I feel like it's probably because we use these the most. We've had tens of thousands of heat presses on it, and very, very, very low maintenance, which we probably should have did better tightening it and stuff. We're just pressing it non-stop. So to me, the loose screws and the broken screws we've had on these things is warranted, because we've used it so many times. And you know, Geo Knight to me is just is solid. I would give it an 8.5 out of 10 all day, probably even higher. I'm just trying to be hard to please and not give anybody a 10 out of 10, I suppose. Maybe I'll rethink that towards the end. All right, so the next heat press we've had is the 16x20, the Hotronics, and honestly this is a solid one as well, but we've used it it a lot as well. I will say one thing about this one, the magnet is no longer magnetized. I don't know what's going on with it, but we've had tens of thousands of heat presses on this one too, but I would say it's been less than the actual Geo Knight one, and the magnet is not currently working, and we have it sitting in the back somewhere. So, you know, and we never get it fixed or whatever. You gotta just have to hold it down. So for the price compared to the Geo Knight one, it's kind of hard for me to also give this 8.5 when this one's more expensive, and you know, we've used it for less times, and something on it broke that we couldn't easily fix by just replacing a screw. It's kind of hard to rank this as a 8.5, and I don't want to rank this in the 7s the same as like the $600 heat presses. This is probably gonna have to be like an 8, 8.2, and 8.25 maybe. This is a solid heat press though. You'll make your return on investment multiple times over. They have the interchangeable platens. Most of them have the interchangeable platens when it comes to this price investment, but you know, this was a solid heat press. This one right here, I've used it multiple times at my production partner's warehouse, and honestly, even though this one right here just looks really basic, it's very strong, very sturdy. To me, this is a real nice solid heat press as well. If I had to choose between these two, I would choose this one right here, $14.50 for the 16x20. I think you just get your money's worth for this one. If you're just pressing t-shirts, this is kind of ideal for you. This one has the hover, which was mostly used for direct to garment if you had to cure the inks or cure pre-treatment, right? So what the hover does is, like, when you push it down, it doesn't exactly snap. It just kind of hovers directly on top of it. I'm sure with DTF transfers nowadays, you could also cure DTF transfers with it, which I wouldn't recommend because all the fumes is going to be everywhere, but I know some of you guys are probably doing it anyway. So once again, you are paying higher for this one, but it does serve a different purpose itself. So also take that into consideration. But for the price though, this is kind of crazy, and if you need something that's going to cure your ink, I would honestly almost recommend you almost having a screen printer dryer so that you can cure all at the same time, because for around the same price, you could buy a cheap dryer so that it can just constantly run and cure your direct to garment pre-treatment, or you know, at least like 2 of the cheaper heat presses. I think the Geo Knight one also has a hover tool as well. I know my production partners facility, they have a Geo Knight, and it does hover on top of it. So, you know, I couldn't really find it on here, but maybe look on that as well. It's a little bit cheaper. For me, honestly, I'm about to go higher into the rankings. I give this an 8 out of 10, $14.50, because this one right here is just really nice, solid build. I know you're buying once. It doesn't look like anything on here is going to actually break. I haven't used it tens of thousands of times personally. I've used this one multiple times. The magnet on it is no longer working, but it's just, I'm comparing the price as well, you guys. So this one doesn't look like it has the pressure measure reading on it. So for example, this one has like a 1 through 9 pressure reading. For example, if you tighten it up, and if it's really tight, it's at number 9. So you can actually have an idea of what your pressure is actually at. You can lower it a little bit, go down to 8, 7, you can unscrew it. Another pressure test that a lot of people say you can do is you put a sheet of paper in there, put it as loose as possible. That's probably like a 1 or 2. You tighten it up all the way. 5, 6, it's not really coming out. 9 is just extremely heavy pressure. But for the price, $14.50, I'm probably gonna give this an 8 out of 10. And this one right here, I know it's made for a different whatever. I think it says 7.25. So I know now Stalls probably hates me, and you guys probably saying this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, which I guess I don't in a sense, because you know, I don't have the vocabulary to explain a lot of what this metal and stuff is made out of. But anyways, so the next heat press that we actually purchased was not this one. We actually had the dual version, so we purchased this one for, I think it was like 5-6 grand. We purchased it used, I think it was like 5 grand what we paid. Brand new is crazy, 8 grand. But we also didn't have the lasers that came out after the times that we had it. To me, this is honestly pretty cool. It's just like, man, it's like clockwork. If you get employees, this is what you want them working on. You don't want them really clamping down and putting in all that additional muscle work. This one right here, you lay it out, the lasers are there for you. Oh, the one that we did have the lasers. This one is different. I think this one shows a holographic image of the print onto your actual t-shirt. The one that we did have lasers, but this I believe is an entirely different function. This one shows a holographic image of the actual t-shirt design that you may have so that you can line it up. So that's pretty cool, and that's entirely different. Never had this one before with the holographic portion. But you know, we had the lasers, and then you just press the buttons. You do need an air compressor to use this, and you know, it is a little loud. I don't necessarily recommend if you're doing this at the house unless you have a house with a lot of acres and whatnot, and a lot of space. So as you can hear, the compressor interrupted me. It comes on about every 30 minutes or so. I guess it depends on the size compressor you have. This one is a California Air Tools compressor. So, you know, to me, for the price, I've seen some, I think I've seen Heat Press Nation come out with one. So I've seen this one that they came out with. That's kind of hard for me to rank it. I'm sorry. I just don't know. It looks like it has really nice build quality for the price and stuff. I feel like I have to touch this one in person to rank this one. But I want to see their dual heat press. So right here, pretty cool, $2,600, and it slides over. Looks pretty awesome, to be honest. It's gonna come in a pallet like that. Once again, they did have some quality videos, so you guys can really get an idea of what you're getting. So they are really ahead compared to other companies when it comes to putting out the quality of like what you're gonna actually get. You know, you can actually see it. So as you can see, you press it down onto the actual t-shirt. They kind of cut this video a little short though. It's too commercially. I kind of like the other one. Maybe they have more videos on their site, but to me, man, $2,600 for something like this, man, to me, I want to say it's a steal, but it's a great price. I'm biased too because I like these dual heat presses and it was easier to train our employees to use it. Man, I give this like a 9 out of 10. Ooh, that's up there. I know you guys want me to say 10 out of 10, but that's up there. But I've never touched it. So once again, how am I ranking heat presses that I've never touched? And I've ranked some of them that I never touched, and I can't rank some of them that I haven't touched. Just leave me alone. I'm doing the best that I can. Anyways, going back to that Stalls one, for the price I paid, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. But for this one right here, it's kind of hard for me to judge. For $8,500, it's kind of hard for me to rank that one. I'm not gonna lie to you. So the last one I'm gonna rank is just because it's one that I've touched and used. It's something like that one right there. I think it's the Geo Knight Max Press. So it's mostly more used for the all over sublimation prints. You can, you know, fit a whole t-shirt on here, and for the price you're paying, $9,800 for a full size heat press, brand new, to me that's an 8, maybe 8.5 out of 10. But for something like this, you can get on Facebook Marketplace and probably find it for about half the price as well. And it's probably in really great condition. The problem is, like, when businesses get rid of something like this, they have a hard time getting rid of it, and they need it gone because it's so large and it takes up so much space. So, you know, the price that you can actually get this for, you know, it's probably a little cheaper on Facebook Marketplace, but don't blame me if it's not working because you didn't do your due diligence and now you don't have the accurate customer support because you didn't buy brand new and stuff. So, you know, don't put that on me. But I know lots of people who bought this news. No problem. Mentioning earlier, you can buy one of these heat laser guns and measure all the heat plates and see what the temperature actually is. I know there's supposed to be a more even accurate reading. Like, this is not even recommended. I've watched a video somewhere in the past where you're supposed to use a heat strip and place that onto the actual heat plates, and that's the more professional way to actually get the temperature reading. But once again, I didn't go through every heat press in the world. It's way too many of them. I did my best to rank what I could, things that I haven't touched, just to give you guys my thoughts. And I know a lot of you guys have so many questions on this, and I know it's a lot, but I hope I answered most of your questions because I know this is probably a huge investment for a lot of you guys. If you haven't made any sales yet, probably try our print on demand. For some of you guys, it may sound a little expensive, but $12-13 shipped for t-shirts is not that expensive. Prove to yourself that you can sell some t-shirts first, maybe even get some screen printed locally, get some direct to garment printed locally first, see if you can do some contract orders. When I made the purchase though, I was truly committed. I know I was going to make the money, and eventually over time, building a print shop, it was not for me. It may be for you though. Maybe, you know, you want to get into this. Maybe you want to handle fulfillment. Maybe that's something you want to do. But just understand you're doing twice the work when you're first starting off. You have to focus on getting sales, doing the marketing, and then you still focus on fulfillment as well. It's a lot to handle, and I know it's going to be overwhelming whenever you first get into this thing, but you gotta have faith, trust in what you're doing, and just don't give up. So many people give up, and that ruins everything about them, their confidence, what they've gone through. They start blaming everything of why they couldn't succeed except for themselves. This is a very saturated market, but at the same time, saturation is a good thing. That means there's lots of money in it. You just gotta get your piece of that pie. And most people who say something is saturated, it's just because they couldn't figure things out, and they're spreading that out into the world. Just because they couldn't do it, they're saying that you can't do it neither. But the thing is, the best businesses in the world are all saturated. So go out there and get your piece of that pie. Links down below for everything. Let me know if this video is helpful. Comment down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.